that's amazing. Amazing. So, we are back in business here. We are back doing some more Happy Bridging Learn and Play. So, let me get my little PowerPoint on and we are going to keep on keeping on. So, today we are going to be talking about the auction. So our agenda for today, we're going to be starting with that challenge question, which I just had up on the screen. We're going to be reviewing the scoring, which is what we covered 2 weeks ago before I had to take a break because I got married. Woo! We're going to talk about some auction logistics, so that way everybody sort of knows how that works. And then we're going to talk about information that is exchanged in the auction, and then finally methods of bidding and what's coming up next week. So, let's start with our challenge question. So for this hand, we want to figure out what we want to do to give ourselves the best chance at taking 5 tricks from this holding. So looking at this hand, we can see that we have the ace, the king, and the queen. We have a 9-card fit. So it seems pretty simple, right? We just take the ace, king, and queen, and most of the time we'll be good to go. But what we want to do is we want to think, how can we give ourselves the best chance at getting all 5 tricks, and just taking the ace, king, and queen is not going to be sufficient. So, looking at these 2 hands, we want to figure out what our best chance is to get those 5 tricks. So, if the missing spades split 3-1 or 2-2, it's going to be fairly easy. We do have the ace, king, and queen, and we get to use that to our advantage. So, if it splits 3-2, we can see we have the queen, the king, and the ace. After we play those 3 tricks, we'll have the only spades remaining whenever it splits 3-1 like this, whether it's west has 3 or east has 3. Similarly, if it splits 2-2, after we play the ace and the king, or we play the queen and the ace, whatever combination of honors we play, we're going to be good to go. So we don't need to worry about the situations where it splits 3-1 or 2-2. Instead, what we want to do is we want to think to ourselves, how can we guarantee that we get 5 tricks here if it splits 4-0? So we want to take a look at what happens if West has 4 spades. So we have 9 of them, there's 13 in the deck. And if West has all 4 of them, we want to find out what our best chance is to get 5 tricks. Because clearly starting with the ace, king, and queen is not going to cut it. So what we want to think to ourselves is, okay, what we want to do is we want to force West to play before we make a decision about what card to play from the north hand. So we want to see what card they play before we make a decision about what card we play. But we don't just want to full send it on the first round. We don't want to play like the 2 and they play the 6 and then we play the 7, because you know what's going to happen most of the time? We're going to end up losing to a singleton jack, and we are going to be crying because we should have just taken our ace, king, and queen and moved on with our lives. So what we need to do is we need to give ourselves the best chance. And how do we do that? Well, first we need to do some reconnaissance. So we need to figure out if it does split 4-0 or if it splits 3-1. Now, some of you may be looking at this and you're like, well, I could just start with the ace, king, or queen. It doesn't matter. But it does. If you start with the ace or the king, you will no longer be able to take all 5 tricks. If you start with the queen, you're going to be able to find out the information that it splits 4-0. And then you'll be able to act on that information because now you know where all the missing cards are. So, for this hand, if you start with the queen, oh wow, that's so slow. They play small, you play small, and now East comes in showing out. They're playing a heart on the very first round. Now we know where all of the remaining spades are. So what we can do at this point is we can play a low spade. And then we can see what West plays, and because we know that they have the jack, the 10, and the 6, we can choose the appropriate card to play. So we are going to play a small card from the south hand, see what West plays, and then finally play from the north hand. Now, why does this work if we start with the ace instead? Well, because when we play this small card from the south hand at trick 2, and we see what card West plays, if they play the 10, we have to play one of our top honors. We have to play the ace or the king. So we play the ace or the king. Then the next time we're going to do the same thing, but we still need that upper card. So we need both the ace and the king to be able to make sure that we get all of those tricks. So this is a super important and super simple suit combination that comes up fairly often. And so you want to keep in mind just how you can approach these different scenarios. That way you can capitalize on taking as many tricks as you possibly can. So now that we've gotten over our review question or our challenge question, let's start with some review. So what are some factors that end up impacting scoring? Well, there's going to be a whole bunch of things, and the very first thing is going to be how many tricks we take. If we take more tricks, in general, we are going to get a better score. Another thing is going to be whether we are playing in a major suit, in a no trump, or in a minor suit contract. So majors are going to be our preferred place to play because they score very similarly to no trump, but it's going to be easier for us to get extra tricks when we are playing in a major. And then if we bid to a bonus level, so if we get up to that game level or up to the slam level, when you hit those bonus levels, now you get more points if you are successful in making your contract. And another thing that we talked about last time was the vulnerability. Now the vulnerability puts more risk and more reward on your different contracts. So if you bid higher and you end up going down, you are going to suffer a worse penalty if you are vulnerable versus non-vulnerable. But on the flip side, you also will get a bigger bonus than you would have had you been playing in a non-vulnerable contract. And so to go along with this, we want to remind ourselves of what those game bonus levels are. So for our majors, hearts and spades, they are going to be up at the 4 level. So 4 hearts and 4 spades. For no trump, it's going to be at the 3 level. We're going to need to take 9 tricks with no trump suit. And for those minors, it's all the way up at the 5 level. We need to take 11 tricks with diamonds or clubs as trump. So now that we've reminded ourselves what is important in the scoring, let's talk about the auction. The auction is going to be a bidding war between the two pairs. The two pairs bid at the same time, each person taking turns, trying to win the contract. So who starts? For bridge, it's going to be the dealer. The dealer is the person who starts the auction. Now, at each player's turn, they can either bid or pass. If you don't want to say anything, you don't have to. So you can just pass the first time if you would like to. But once a bid has been made, each bid must be higher than the previous bid. You continue bidding, and then the highest bid made in the auction wins the honor of being on offense. So they will end up being the declaring side. Whoever bids the suit or no trump of the final contract becomes the declarer. Now, how does the auction end? Well, after 3 passes have been made, unless it is the first round of the auction. So if it goes pass by the dealer, pass by me, pass by my opponent, my partner still will have a chance to bid. So the 4th person at the table will always get a chance to bid on that first turn. But if they decide to pass, then that is the end of the hand. You shuffle up those cards and you go again. So, now that we understand some of the logistics of the auction, let's talk about how we can make higher bids. So, there are 2 different ways that you can make a bid higher. First, there are going to be the different levels. The different levels correspond to the number of tricks that we would have to take if the auction were to end there. So for example, those game contracts, 4 hearts, 4 spades, those are an example of a bid. And they are up at the 4 level. So the 1 level is going to correspond to 7 tricks. We are always trying to take at least the majority, especially because we are working in pairs. So the 1 level corresponds to 7 tricks, the 2 level to 8 tricks, and so on and so forth. So what you can do is you can add the level plus 6, and that will let you know how many tricks you need to be successful in your contract. If you make a bid at a higher level than the previous bid, this is going to be higher. So if the first bid was 1 club and you decide to bid 2 diamonds, this is going to be higher than the previous bid. How many levels are there in bridge? Well, we can figure this out by thinking about the number of tricks. There are 13 tricks in a hand of bridge. Now we add 6 to all of the different levels, so if we subtract 6 from 13, that gives us 7, and that's going to tell us how many levels there are in the auction in bridge. Now, you do not need to use all 7 levels if you do not want to. If it goes past below the 7 level, then you are playing in whatever level you're in right there. So bidding at a higher level is not the only way that you can make a higher bid. The other way that you can make a higher bid is by bidding a higher ranking suit at the same level. So what is the rank order of the suits? Well, it's going to be clubs as the smallest, diamonds next, then hearts, then spades, and then finally, no trump. Now, you don't have to memorize this, but if you want to, a quick way to do that is to think about it being alphabetical. So clubs start with C, diamonds with D, hearts H, spades S, and we'll give no trump a T. So, at each level, clubs will be the lowest available suit, and no trump is the highest available strain. And then when you get to the next level, it starts all over again. So once you get to 1 no trump, in order to make a higher bid, you now have to go to the 2 level. So between 1 club, which is the lowest bid available, and 7 no trump, which is the highest bid available, there are going to be 35 bids. Now, there are going to be so many different ways to combine these 35 bids into sequences that show different things. So, what we have done through bridge is we have decided that we are going to ascribe certain meanings to certain bids. Some of those bids end up just being, this is where we're going to play. But based on the sequence of bids that were made up until that point, it gives you information about your partner's hand. So, what's the point? Well, in the auction, we have our goals. We want to figure out if we can play in a game contract, or if we want to try for slam, or perhaps if we would like to defend. So in order to figure this information out without just leaning across the table being like, hey partner, I got the ace, king, queen of spades over here and I got like 4 little hearts. How does that work with your hand? Well, we need to share that information with our partner, but code it into those bids. So, we want to share information like the length of our suits or the overall strength of our hand to our partner by using specific bids or a specific sequence of bids. So, what is the relevant information we want to share with our partner? When we are trying to figure out where we should play, we want to figure out 2 things. First and foremost, do we have a fit in a suit? Do we have 8 or more cards in one suit between our 2 hands? If I have 4 hearts and my partner has 4 hearts, well, boom, we have a fit. And we need to be able to communicate that to each other. We also want to think about how many honors we have between the 2 of us. So those honors are going to be the aces, kings, queens, and jacks. Also sometimes tens. We want to communicate the strength of our hand, which is going to be reflected in how many of those face cards or honors we have between the 2 of us. So let's talk about coding information. So in general, when you are starting to learn how to play bridge, the way that we communicate this information to our partner is by using specific bids to show things about our hand. So, to show our partner that we like specific suits or that we have cards in specific suits, we usually bid the suit that we want to tell them about. So, for example, if we bid spades, we probably like spades. However, our honors or our strength isn't necessarily so straightforward. We need to communicate our our honors and the overall strength of our hand, the trick-taking potential of our hand, to our partner. And so to do this, we want to quantify our trick-taking potential. And over the 100 years of bridge, we have decided that the best way to do this is by using something called high card points. So high card points are going to be a method of quantifying our trick-taking potential to our partner. So the top 4 cards in every suit are going to be given a point value based on how likely they are to take a trick. And then we sum up the total of our hand in terms of our high card points, and we try to communicate that number to our partner. So aces, those are going to be our favorite cards in every suit, and these are going to be worth 4 high card points. Our next favorite cards are going to be the kings. These are going to be worth 3 high card points. Queens are going to be worth 2, and jacks are going to be worth 1. Now, as you learn more about bridge, you'll learn different styles of bidding, and you'll learn different ways to showcase the strength of your hand to your partner. And we're going to talk a lot more about how you can start to show specific values to your partner next week. But for right now, counting up those high card points is going to give you a rough estimation of how strong your hand is. Now, when we look at this page here, I have all of the honors that are in the deck showcased here for us. So how many high card points are there in each deck of cards? Well, there's going to be 16 in terms of aces, there's 12 in kings, there's 8 in queens, and 4 in jacks. Sorry. 4 in jacks. So combined, our total is actually going to be 40. There are 40 high card points in every deck of cards. And so we can start to use that number and break it down into smaller parts to try to figure out how many high card points we roughly need to feel comfortable bidding up to, for example, 4 hearts, 4 spades, 3 no trump, 5 of a minor, things like this. Even up to the 6 or 7 level, we can start to use our combined high card point strength to figure out what level we really belong at. So, there is not just one right answer, though, for how to approach the auction. There are going to be tons of different methods of bidding. Bridge has been around for about 100 years, maybe a little longer, but bridge players have been creative and innovative over those 100 years. And much like computer engineers, they like to find efficiencies. They like to find ways to try to show as much information to their partner with as few bids as possible. And so what this has done is this has led to many different systems being developed. The primary one that is taught in North America today is going to be Standard American. This is usually taught in beginner classes, and it's generally what you default to if you don't know anything else about what you and your partner are playing. ACAL is what is taught primarily over in the UK, so that is a European system, but it's very popular all over the world now. Then there's a system called 2/1, and this is the one that I primarily use and the one that I'll be showing you guys over the next couple of weeks. And then finally, there's something called precision, which is an umbrella term. There is not just one version of precision. There are also many other systems beyond these, but precision is a highly artificial system. I find that this one is, it's used by a lot of different people and cultures and everything. I believe that in China that this is the system that is taught like in schools, in bridge classes in schools. But precision is a highly artificial system, so instead of when you bid clubs it says something about clubs, it's more when you bid clubs, depending on what level it is, it says something about your strength. It may or may not say something about your clubs. There's a lot of different information that ends up getting coded into it. 2/1, ACAL, and Standard American are much more of natural bidding systems where what suit you bid ends up showing things about the suit that you are bidding. So you are saying, if I start with a spade bid, I'm showing something about spades. Looks like we have some friends who just joined us. Hi to Avinash and hi to Taylor. Hope you all are doing well. So, these are some of the systems that you may encounter as you are getting into bridge a little bit more. 2/1 is going to be the one that I'm primarily focused on, but if you like one better than the other, that is totally fine. Because none of these are better than the others, it's just a choice of style, and so it's going to be something that as you get more comfortable with the game, as you develop more as a bridge player, you're going to find yourself gravitating towards one versus the other, and maybe you play different systems with different partners. I've certainly done that before as well. So, that is all the information that I have for you lovely folks today. Next week, what I'm planning on talking about is starting to talk about how we can start making those bids and how we can start approaching the auction. I believe I'm going to be talking more about balanced hands, which are about 50% of the hands that you're going to be encountering as a bridge player. So we're going to start by talking about those and how you can approach the auction. So if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to leave them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for stopping by. I do this stream every Thursday at 6 p.m. Unless I am off at a tournament or busy getting married. But next week I will be back again with another stream, and we're just learning how to play bridge here. Yeah, so if you want to get notifications that I have a stream up and running, you can hit that subscribe button. It helps me and it lets you know when the stream is starting. So thanks guys so much. Hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day, and until next time, happy bridging.